Persons under 18 will not be admitted.
What's up, everybody? This is Jeff
and Ben
from Toking with the Dead.
And Still Toking With.
And Still Toking With. Still Toking With is our live show. Yes. You can catch that every Wednesday
at 7 p.m.
Eastern.
That's
Eastern time.
Yeah,
if you live in fucking California, it's got to be 3.
No, 4.
4?
Yeah. They're only 3 hours behind.
What about daylight savings?
Yeah, well, fuck that. We'll worry about that one.
Okay, so if you're on the West Coast, you're going to have to look up when 6 o'clock is out there compared to here.
Which would be actually 7 o'clock out there instead of here.
7 o'clock?
Yeah.
Before this is over, I'm going to need a whole lot of serious therapy.
You're all fucked up today.
Another $1 for the swear jar.
I'm always fucked up. You should tune into the show and see really how fucked up I can get.
Oh, yeah.
Well, opinions are like assholes. Everybody has one.
And when you do tune in, you're going to see amazing guests like this.
Hey, what's up? This is Jeremy Palco from The Walking Dead, and this is Still Toking With.
Hi, I'm Larry Kenny, and you're listening to Still Toking With...
What's up, everybody? It's comedian Sherwin Array, and you're listening to Still Toking With on the Dorkening Podcast Network.
We appreciate your choosing our theater. And to make this experience more enjoyable for everyone, we hope you'll refrain from talking during the show. Enjoy the movie. Thank you.
Everyone thinks because you're a zombie, you don't know good coffee. Well, they're wrong. We have very active lifestyles. It's not all wandering the countryside aimlessly or scaring passing motorists. And we all love a good cup of joe. And there's only one brew that gets my seal of approval. Deadly Grounds coffee is my guilty pleasure. Bold, robust, delicious. It's coffee that can wake the dead. With over a dozen different roasts and flavors, Deadly Grounds can satisfy the most finicky of coffee addicts. The aroma is so intoxicating. It brings all of my neighbors out of the woodwork. Deadly Grounds coffee. Coffee to die for and zombie approved. It's good to get a little deadly. Use the front door! Oh, they're so disgusting.
Hey, happy Wednesday, everybody. You're watching Still Toking With. My name's Leo. I'm the monkey behind the keyboard here. We have a killer show for you tonight, as always. And Benjamin, what do you mean we're back? We didn't go anywhere.
We didn't have a show last week.
I know. We had like 30 this weekend.
Well, that's what I'm saying. But our regularly scheduled viewers, we didn't have a show last week. We were down in Norfolk, Virginia at Tidewater Horror Convention running all the media there.
We were.
So we were.
Okay.
So, and I was just noticing something when you were full screen there, Leo. Your eyes were like this.
Yeah. Well, I'm pretty focused. So.
Yeah. Well, we'll go with focus. We'll go with focus.
Jeffrey.
Hey. Happy Wednesday, everybody. It's actually good to be back. 12 hours down, 12 hours back. It takes a lot out of you.
That is insane.
You know? So, but yeah, no, we got a great show. I'm looking forward to chatting with this gentleman. I have always loved the artwork that I have seen, and I haven't seen all of it because it's way too much. Let's not hesitate. Let's bring in Tim Jacobus. Jacobus.
What's up, guys?
Yeah, he
perfect. That was just the way we practiced it. It's perfect.
You see? I'm good at that.
yeah, you are.
It's actually Tim Jacobus for all of our viewers out there. Let me get that right.
There you go.
Perfect.
You know?
Right.
So, how you doing?
I'm good.
Yeah?
So you guys were on a major league road trip?
Yes.
Yeah,
a little bit.
3-day horror event.
Oh, nice.
On the road for 6
Tidewater
days.
Horror Convention.
Yeah.
Oh, Jesus. That's a lot of time. It's a lot of time on the road.
Yep.
It's worth it though.
It's
worth it, you know. I mean, we do a lot of other stuff other than just this show. Look at that. I'm glitching. Stop glitching. There we go. I fixed it. Camera got a little scared.
No, you didn't.
No, you're right. I didn't. Am I still glitchy?
A little bit.
I said glitchy, not bitchy, Leo.
Oh, I was going to say, you're always a little bitchy.
Yeah, well, you would be too if you sat in the truck for 12 hours. Your ass goes numb. But anyway, back to our guest.
All three of you in the same truck?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, just me and Ben. Yeah.
Yeah.
The rest of the truck is full of all our shit.
Pretty much.
You know.
Pretty much. So
Convention
anyway.
life.
You know, I mean, it was a fun ride, except for the New Jersey Turnpike on the way home.
Well, that's only because the trailer truck tire exploded, wiped out the car in front of us, and I don't know how you Mario Andretti threw that shit without getting us killed.
Wow.
Right?
But we made it because here we are. Ta-da! No,
it was all those years of playing GT.
Yeah, we almost looked like some shit you illustrated. Let me tell you.
Yeah.
Oh, but let's get going on the show here. You know, I know both you're all itching up there for questions. I can see it in Leo's eyes.
Well, I was going to say, Tim, we know you, but for the people watching, who are you? And
what the hell are you doing here?
Right.
I am Tim Jacobus. I'm best known for doing the original covers for the Goosebumps series that was prevalent in the 90s, written by R.L. Stine. I did over 100 covers, Goosebumps, and I did a couple hundred of other covers as well. So I've been at this illustration game a long time, but the Goosebumps is what people know.
Right, okay. Right. When I saw your interview, I believe it was with, was it Richard Aviles?
Yeah.
Yeah. I saw that, and I called him up, and I said, how the hell did you get him? He goes, dude, I just sent him a message. I was like, well, give me his I mean, the beauty of our show is we like to mix it up. One week you might see an actor or actress or somebody that's, using cannabis for cancer, or a great illustrator such as yourself with a great story. So, like you said, most people know you from Goosebumps. How did you land that job? I mean, that's a question you get all the time, but I
sure.
want to.
But it's, again, not to. I had been illustrating for a couple of years, and I had done some jobs with Scholastic, who was the publisher of Goosebumps. Mm-hmm. And I had proven myself to be somewhat responsible, meaning you give me the job, I get it done on time. My work was consistent from cover to cover to cover. And when Goosebumps came along, the backstory being that nobody was thrilled about it. It wasn't like, oh, there's this big thing coming along called Goosebumps and the kids are going to love it and this is a big deal. It was actually the other way around. They thought it, no one had tried making a horror series for kids 7 to 11 years old, and there was a huge fear of failure. So it was presented to me in a way that where it's like, look, we're not sure how this is going to go. Would you be willing to do some covers for a reduced rate? Because we really don't think this thing's going to get off the ground. And if you do us this favor, if this thing falls through, we'll put you on something else and, make it worth your while. So didn't go into it thinking this was going to be anything huge. Now, R.L. Stine already had a track record, but it's funny. Illustrators and authors are not, we don't spend time together, nor is it set up that way in the publishing business.
Right.
I'm working with art directors, authors and editors are working together. So so the fact is, I didn't really know who R.L. Stine was, even though he was a big deal at that point. He had Fear Street well underway. And so they told me I was going to be working with him. But again, this is 1990, late in 91. There's no Google for me to look up and find out who he is. Anyway, right. We started out, but they gave me a little bit of the written material, and when I saw it, I was like, "Oh, this looks like fun." So it had that sense of it's something completely different. And I was like, yeah, even if this doesn't get off the ground, I know I can make a couple of cool images, and maybe we'll just leverage them to get some, other jobs down the road. We got it off the ground. It didn't go on fire right away. It took a good solid 9 books, maybe 10 books. And they actually were talking about canning it.
Right.
And all of a sudden, the kids started to talk to each other. And it was strictly word of mouth. And the thing shot off. And once it took off, it was great. Everybody was really smart. And they just said, don't anybody touch this. However, we're doing this right now, because I got left alone. And in the book business, you don't get left alone. There's 52 cooks in there helping you make that dinner. And nobody was bothering me because this thing wasn't supposed to go anywhere. So they continued to leave me alone, which was wonderful. And I got 10 solid years out of that before my tenure was up.
Wow.
Now, the concept of each cover. Now, did they just leave that up to you? Did you read the story before coming up with the idea for the cover? How did you go through that process?
So RL was writing the book at the same time I was doing the cover. So he would give me a short synopsis of what the book was about. Earlier on, like Welcome to Dead House was the first book in the series. And he had been planning that for a while. And I got maybe 3 chapters of that book. So I had a solid piece of written material to base my ideas off of. But as we kept moving down the road, we were putting out 1 a month. And again, RL's doing the heavy lift here. I have to just complete 1 painting. He's got to write a whole book. And he had a 1-month loop that we were working on. So as we went forward, I got less and less and less from him about what the story was about, till when it got to the point where it was, here's the title, here's 2 sentences, have at it. And for some illustrators, that could be an issue. I found it to be just the opposite. If you give me a lot of information, I feel compelled to put in all of that information, or as much as I can. If you give me just a little bit of information, I can kind of run with the ball in any direction, and there's nothing to say, oh, well, that's, you can't do that.
Right.
So I got a lot of leeway. And but I always present, there was an art director I was working with. They would have a concept, and then I would do their concept, and then I would do 2 others and try to go, okay, that's okay, cool. A lot of times they were great ideas. And then other times I was like, all right, let me take this in another direction and let's see if you're willing to go my way. And it was very good. Nobody labored over anything. Turn in the sketches. A day later, they go, yeah, do number 2. Hurry up, get it done. Get it done, send it to them in the mail. They'd look at it. Good, hurry up. Here's the next one. Keep going. And so the critiques that you usually get, and the never-ending changes that you usually get in a book cover, or when you're working with other art directors, none of that happened. 100 covers, I only had to change 1 out of 100.
Wow. Yeah, I was just going to ask if they ever rejected one.
It's never a rejection. It's always because there's too many steps along the way. It starts out where there's pencil sketches, and I give them 3, and they look at them and they go, okay, yeah, this is the direction we want to go. So there's never any like crazy surprises like, oh, we didn't know you were putting a werewolf on the cover. We hate werewolves, or anything like that. So there was always some sort of, they knew where I was going. The only one that they made me change was a cover called Revenge of the Lawn Gnomes. And it has 2 lawn gnomes on the cover. And one of the gnomes is standing there with his arms folded. And the other one in the current cover is scratching the side of his head. In the original, he had his finger jammed up his nose. And of course, that's way funnier, and everybody loved it. And it got past the first set of people who were looking at it, and it got real close to being printed. And then it came back to me, and they go, look, we're putting these things in the schools. We don't want to have any parents or teachers saying you're encouraging the kids to pick their nose. So all I had to do was take that index finger out of his nose and put it up to the side of his head. So as far as changes go, that's pretty easy.
Right. I mean, we all went to school. I don't think you have to encourage them to pick their nose. They do that anyways. You know, that's just a given. It's like there's something in there, they want it out. They don't know. It's like, give me that. So
Jeremy's asking if you have any of the originals.
So the deal was, so we were doing them all along, and the way the book business works is usually you, in the 90s, these were all traditional pieces of artwork, 20 inches by 20 inches, acrylic paint, and a combination of brush and airbrush. The airbrush gives it that polished look that you see on the covers. And most times you do your artwork, you send it in, they send it to a professional photographer, they print it, they hang on to it for about a month and a half, and then they send it back to you and you get to keep your artwork. As we moved along in the Goosebumps series, they realized they had something going, and they were going to want to use the artwork for other things, T-shirts, games, all kinds of paraphernalia, and they were going to constantly have to be reproducing the artwork. In the digital world today, as soon as you would have that, you would have enough. But back then, they were always afraid, if we lose our print or this happens, we need to hang on to the art. So they paid extra to be able to hang on to that art. So there is a closet or a warehouse or something at Scholastic that has all the Goosebumps art sitting in it.
Wow.
Oh, okay.
That's pretty cool. But
Yeah,
speaking, like we said, Jeff and I just came back from a horror convention. Do you ever go out to any of these conventions? Do you get invited? I mean,
yeah. That's one of the newer things that's happening that has been the most fun, because so back in the 90s when I'm doing this, I'm in my early 30s, and the kids are 11 years old, and like they wrote me letters and stuff, and I would write back to them, and that's all nice, but you're dealing with kids. Right. Now I get invited to these comic convention, and all my fans are 40 years old, 30 years old, and now we're contemporaries. So it's fun. It's really surprising to me that, that was a long time ago, 30 years ago this year,
right,
that we started this series, and that they still remember it. They still like it. That people are excited about it. So yeah, going to conventions has been a blast. I'm going to the New York Comic-Con in a couple of weeks.
Okay.
That'll be the biggest one I've ever done. And we're looking forward to that.
Very cool, very cool. So you heard it here, folks. He's going to be at the New York Comic-Con in a couple weeks. So I would say get off. I'm going to say it straight out. Get off your ass and go down there and check out his artwork. And, you might, with all the artwork that this gentleman has produced, and probably stuff that we don't even know about, I'm sure you're going to find something that you're going to like.
Yeah, we got some cool things there.
Well, yeah, Facebook user says, "One Day at Horrorland was one of my first books. Thank you for your service to the art world."
Very cool. Much appreciated.
Jeremy's asking, so what kind of books do you read?
So to be perfectly honest, I listen to a lot more books than I read, so that I can continue to work and be read to in the background. A lot of biographies. I just listened to a biography about Ozzy the other day, and it was, it's great. It's a great story, and everybody loves Ozzy.
Right? How can you not? Now, I don't know if it's true or not, but I read that the covers for number 2 and number 12 you did not do.
So yes and no.
Okay.
The way it's Goosebumps started, they weren't sure if I was going to be the official Goosebumps illustrator. They didn't know if they wanted to use me or another illustrator named Jim Thiessen. Jim Thiessen was an established horror illustrator. So the plan was let Tim do number 1, let Jim do number 2. We'll see them finished on the books and we'll see how they go. And then we'll decide who does the other 2, because there was originally only going to be 4 books. Okay. So I did 1, Jim did 2. And again, the real issue was they thought the series was going to be too scary. So when they saw my stuff and Jim's stuff side by side, Jim's stuff is great, but they saw that I was using saturated colors, which isn't typical of the horror genre. Mm-hmm. So they also saw that as being very disarming. And they're like, look, this makes this stuff a little more palatable. Let's go with Jacobus just because that's what he's, the colors he's using. So I didn't do that one. And then book number 12, I went on vacation. I missed that one. But in the late 90s, now it was probably 2000, 2001, somebody over at Scholastic said, oh, we're looking at all the books and you did them all except for those 2. And I was like, yeah, that's how it went down. And they're like, well, let's go back and let's redo those. You do book 2 and book 12 so that you can have the whole shooting gallery. So if you go and look on the web, you can see there are alternate versions of those 2 books.
Oh, so it's a variant cover. That's cool.
Yeah. So I can. Cool. It's easier to tell people I did them all because that story obviously took me 5 minutes to explain it to you. So
well, good thing it's an hour-long show. See, we can fit that 5 minutes in there.
Right, it's good here. It's good.
So just so we know, Facebook user is actually Dal Merge. He's actually our artist.
Oh, okay, cool.
For our comic book series. He's like, I don't know why it came out. He just sent me a message. But that was my first book. So you've inspired a lot of artists out there.
That's, when you start out in this business, you don't, you're not thinking about any of this stuff that is so cool and important and most meaningful now. Like all I wanted to do was be able to grind out a living and sit at home and get my stuff done and be able to be paid to paint. And I wasn't thinking about other people even noticing this stuff. I just was hoping I'd sell a couple of books and pay the electric bill and keep the lights on.
Right.
And, again, you go out now and people are saying, yeah, listen, when I was 9 years old, I got into the Goosebumps books and it inspired me. And I started to draw when I was 9. And now I'm a tattoo artist and I'm making, like those stories are incredible. And, it means more to me than like to be part of that is just very cool.
Now, as time has gone on, obviously, in the 90s and stuff, you were doing, like you said, a lot of like painting, acrylic paints and stuff like that. Have you morphed into a lot of digital artwork now, or?
Yeah, there was a point in probably the mid 2000s, 2003, 2004, where all the publishers reached out to all of us then illustrators and said, look, you want to continue in this business, you got to go digital. We're changing everything to digital. You need to as well. We understand some of you won't want to do that, and that's fine. But the rest of you, this is not negotiable. You got to figure this thing out. So I was like, okay, we'll figure this out. It was very painful. I had been doing illustrations for a good solid 15 years, had a routine down with the acrylics and how to mix them in a, like it was very zen. And then you switch over, you get a computer. I didn't own one, so I'm buying a computer. I haven't touched a keyboard since typewriting class in high school, and you got to remember the computers that you got back in, 03 were just, there's no RAM, there's no storage, there's no anything. You're using Photoshop version 3 or 4. Everything is just crap. And I was, it was the most disheartening thing that I had to do in my career, because they give me this rock, and go, okay, do the same thing. And it took a couple of years. They told us early enough to where it didn't happen. They didn't call us on Tuesday, and on Wednesday we had to be up and running. So, the first 2 months were just, literally in the middle of the night, screaming at the top of my lungs at the computer, not knowing there was nobody to call. There's no YouTube videos to help you figure shit out. It was, it was just hit your head on the desk until something got in there. And slowly but surely you start to figure things out, and finally got a few things. I did every classic mistake that you could make, where you work all night long and you're just about done, and you take a file and you copy it over something, and you copy the wrong file over the good file, and it's all gone and it disappears, and you just have to start all over again, because there was no such thing as time machine on your computer. All this shit is not a problem anymore, but back then it was a nightmare. I hated every minute of it. But then you start to get better at it, and then you start to discover, oh, wait a minute, there's a whole new set of things that I can do in the digital world that either would take me way too long to do traditionally, and there's new ways of doing it. And the beauty is you send something over to the client and they go, look, this is really cool. You got this beautiful green background, but can we change that to blue? In the old days, that's 3 days worth of work. Now it's like, sure, it's on another. Hang on. Let me, click.
There you go.
There you go. How about is that blue enough? Here's a little more blue. Is that better? So once you got it up and running and figured out how to get the layers to go, and then I have one of those Wacom tablets. So my hand movements are the same hand movements that I used to do, back traditionally. So now I'm kind of doing a hybrid where all my art still starts out on paper with pencil. It's a sketch. It's a traditional sketch. I get everything the way I want it outside the computer, and then I scan it in there, and that's when all the color work is done. So nothing gets
a lot of people do that.
Right. So again, when you look at it, you go, that still has a very tangible, traditional feel to it. But again, it's digital, and I can manipulate it any way I want to. Right. So I will do traditional work, but it's kind of rare, because I'm only going to do it for the guy who's buying it solely to hang on the wall in his house. Right. Anybody who's doing any type of production work, it's just not worth it to anybody, to them, to the printer, to me. Let's do it digital. It's still cool artwork, and it will get you from point A to point Z the fastest.
Right. Leo, where can they find out about this amazing guest we have? You got to unmute yourself. The brownie.
There we go. Yeah, I did. Check the show notes up above or down below, depending on where you're watching or listening to us. So just, because I'm, a dork here and I had to figure things out. So if you got your computer probably around like 90, 91?
No, that was when Goosebumps started. I didn't get my computer until about 2000.
Oh, I'm sorry. My bad.
Yeah, you were 10 years
you got a
behind,
state
Leo.
of the art.
You
You
were
got a
10,
state of
you're
the
10
art.
years behind.
I couldn't even afford a brand name. I had to get a power computer. That was the name of the brand. It was an Apple clone, and yeah, and I think it had an 11 gig hard drive, if I remember right. And just no RAM, and just everything. You had to keep crushing your layers down on your Photoshop documents to keep making them smaller, just so you could save them. It's just a nightmare. It's just a nightmare. The thumb drive I carry in my pocket has way more juice than my first computer.
Right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember because I started with Photoshop 4.
There you go. Yeah. It's a rock and a stick. Now,
right.
Make some art.
Right. You go to do something and it takes 10 minutes to process it.
Yeah. Why are you still spinning?
Right.
Yeah. That status bar just moving ever so. You used to have to put the cursor on it to make sure it was still moving because it moved so slow.
Yeah.
Right.
Or you get the beach ball of death. Just the spinning wheel.
No.
Just a little trivia. Photoshop 4 is actually the first Photoshop where they introduced layers.
There you go. Yeah, I wasn't there before layers. Yeah.
Wow. Leo, it's about that time.
Oh, for an ad or to stop?
No, not to stop.
Okay.
And for an ad.
Oh, yeah.
You can play whatever you want. Just play.
Well, you didn't. Okay, fine.
I know. Usually I send it to you, but you know what?
How's that brownie, Leo?
Yeah, really? How much of that brownie did you eat? You can't stop smiling. He's got ear to ear.
Thank you for supporting Actors and Others for Animals. We started a long, long time ago. So when you find an organization like Actors and Others for Animals, it sort of unites all of those of us who want to pay back something for all the joy we get out of animals. Please keep up the good work. Believe me, it's deeply appreciated.
There we go.
Now I feel better.
Yeah.
Now I feel better. You ran an ad. We're good.
We're all okay.
We're back to the
We're
show.
All good?
Yeah.
Okay. I believe Jar Jar had another question. So what was your experience of life during the pandemic? How did you keep busy?
Luckily, because people were, home and trying to do some alternate projects, it was nothing happened, for me, luckily, and for so many people that wasn't the case. There was no cons, but people, were venturing out and, doing more books than they normally would have done. They were mixing music at home. I did some album covers. I'm also an art director at a small studio, and I do corporate animation stuff for e-learning. And again, everybody went from the office to home, so that stuff stayed going. The thing that we did do, we meaning me and my son, because when it first hit, just like everybody else, you're going, uh-oh, I don't know if this tent stays up, when all this stuff happens. And we were lucky enough to be as busy as we ever were. And that's when I started offering Goosebumps posters and prints through my website. And what we ended up doing was, if you buy a $20 poster, $10 of that money goes to buying food for the pantry down the street. So, cool. We were doing okay. I saw too many people standing in line. I saw too many people lining up down the street. And there was a way to kind of get my kid on board with, hey, if you can do something, try to help some people out. So Yeah, so we buy the food, we load it into the back of the pickup truck, we drive it down the street. So that also was, again, something that we could do when you felt like you couldn't do anything.
Right. That's awesome, actually.
Yeah, it is.
Oh yeah, it's still up and running, and the people down the street now recognize us. And it's they don't understand though, because there's they're all old people and nobody knows what a goosebumps is. So
well, I've had the goosebumps from being cold, but is that the same thing?
The way we do it is I get the money comes in, and then I order all the food through Walmart, and then Walmart delivers all of it right to my doorstep. We don't have to go to the supermarket and load a cart. So all the boxes say Walmart on it. So when we go down there, we're the Walmart guys. So no, we're not. Never mind. It doesn't matter. Here's the food.
Well, thank you for doing that. And I noticed that people that were in the position to be able to do that started to step up during that time.
Yeah,
you know what I mean, and that was cool.
Yeah, and again, it you do it because you want to do something helpful. Then the running joke is, then you do it and you start to feel good. Like I feel good for doing it, and that's not why I do it. So now I feel guilty because I feel good about doing something. So it's a terrible cycle that I got myself into. I feel guilty because I feel good about feeling good about doing something. I don't know.
Then if you stop or if you miss a beat, everybody gets mad at you because you stopped doing what you were doing.
Yeah, that too.
There's a one-off shit wipes out 10 attaboys.
For sure.
Oh man.
So now, so you've done game covers, album covers.
Everybody's stealing my questions tonight. Go ahead.
You're not quick enough. So you did a couple of game covers for Star Trek. How did you get that?
So the book publishing business at the beginning of the gaming industry, the book publishing industry had all the mechanisms in place prior to gaming becoming the monster that it is today in the multi-billion-dollar industry. So they, at the beginning, game cartridge, they weren't cartridges. Some of them, one of the early Star Trek games was literally a floppy disk that you used to load into
the computer you used to own.
So you got it in a book. So we made a whole book for it, and you could slide this floppy in there. And it wasn't even, there were no, this is so old, there was no graphics in this game. It was just it was a word game. I never saw anybody run it, but we spent a lot of time on the cover, and it was fun because I grew up with Star Trek. I was a kid, and Friday night when that came on and you were over your buddy's house doing a sleepover, that was killer. So being able to do a Star Trek cover was and be able to put Kirk and Spock in the Enterprise and all that shit, that was fun.
Yeah, because that was one of your earlier endeavors.
I wouldn't even. I can't even. I'm not sure.
86 and 88 is what I'm looking at.
Yeah. And that would have meant I did it a year before, because that's when it finally makes it out.
Right.
So, yeah, the big one was the wraparound book cover, which was the coolest. And I still have that one up in the attic. And then the other one was just the Enterprise itself. But again, that game market at the beginning, you were going, that's cool. I'm glad I don't know where this is going, or, if gaming is such a, again, I was a Pong kid, we all Pong, and it was like, all right, this is okay, but all right, bored with it already. Where are we going?
Right.
But now my son's a real gamer, and every time a new version comes out, and I'm watching over his shoulder, and the quality of the graphics it just goes to another level, to another level, to another level, and it's so unbelievable. Their feature movies being played in real time and never ending landscapes and corridors. The processing power must be, it's just
insane.
It is. The whole thing's insane. And how short of a period it went from that shitty Pong thing to, almost indistinguishable from real life.
Right.
It's like the static cling things that we used to have to stick on the TV.
Winky dig. Yeah. Used to stick that shit on the TV. Yeah, because if you ever drew on the TV, your old man
turns Pong into a racing game.
So I like the way he said, I still have that up in the attic. I'm thinking to myself, man, I want to come see your friggin' attic.
Yeah. So I literally have monsters in my attic, and I only hang so much of my artwork. It's not that I dislike it, but this room here behind me, I have a couple hanging up, and that's about it. You hang other stuff up. You want to hang other people's art and other things that you think are cool. You got to get past it. So again, I did hundreds of covers, and
I was gonna say
so there's a lot of paintings in the attic.
I mean, you've done over 300. At least it's what I've read. Over 300 covers and paintings.
There's 300 covers. I don't have 300 in the attic. But there's a lot. There's a lot. That was one thing I did do during the pandemic, because it's funny when you're first doing this stuff. And I used to live in another house, a little lake house, when I first got married, and used to the paintings would come back, and we didn't have much room, so you just jam them under the bed. And then there was so many that the bed legs didn't even sit on the floor, and you looked at them as almost disposable items, like they had already served their purpose. You already sent it in, it already got printed. Now you just have them, and it's like, they're nice and they're cool. I like them, they're mine, but I didn't respect them, because in my head there's always going to be more. There's always going to be more, and there is a finite number. It's a pretty decent amount, but I hardly do traditional paintings anymore. So there are paintings up there that I wish I treated a little bit better in the early years, because now they're 30 plus years old, and none of them got ruined or from any issue. Which brings me to a cool story. So like I said, Scholastic has all the Goosebumps covers, and they have a series of warehouses down in Lower Manhattan. And 9 years ago, Hurricane Sandy came through here and knocked the crap out of us and did a number on New York City. And the lower part of Manhattan was seriously flooded. And that's where Scholastic is. And a lot of their warehouses got flooded. And somebody somewhere, did the math, and then people start reaching out to me going, hey, was your art in any of these warehouses? And I heard it's, then it starts, I heard it's destroyed. I heard all the Goosebumps art is gone. And I had, they presented a pretty good case, and I was like, I don't know. It could be. I don't have any, the people I worked with were already, they're gone. They don't work at Scholastic anymore. And so there wasn't like I could call people and go, hey, what about the art? And so some of the fans got on it, and people from Scholastic got back to them saying, no, they're there. No, they're okay. They're there. But nobody showed anybody anything. And I'm going, well, if I lost them all in a flood, I'd be telling everybody, yeah, they're fine, and just never copped to it. After the flood, they moved the operation, the whole Scholastic building, they moved it farther uptown, and they've got a beautiful new office. I haven't seen it in person, but I've seen pictures of it. And when they redid the lobby, they took out some of the classic art that they had produced over the years. And on one wall, there are 3 or 4 Goosebumps covers hanging up. So at least I know some of them survived. And that I don't think they're all gone. I would assume if some were there, most of them are there.
Right.
Now, do you have a favorite cover that you did for Goosebumps?
It changes. There's times where I like certain pieces, and then somebody will it'll remind me of the story, or somebody will again, it switches all along.
Yesterday it was this one. Tomorrow it might be.
I tell everybody when I go to a con that they ask me, I tell them one, and I said, if you see me a month from now in Indianapolis, I'm going to tell you a different one for sure. I know I am. So there's ones that I like for particular reasons, because they had something I did in them became something cool that I continued to do throughout. There's one called Egg Monsters from Mars. And when it was presented to me, it didn't seem very scary. It was just kind of an egg. And I'm going, I don't know what I'm going to do with this. So I came up with an egg. I came up with an egg creature, but what I ended up doing was warping the perspective in the kitchen. No straight lines. Everything had that Escher, twist to it, and a very, trippy looking background. And once I got away with it on that one, I was like, that works. And I started warping the backgrounds any chance I could. So the warped background started to show up a lot after that piece, or that's one where I really went all out on it. So warped perspective, always made sure that I did a completely new color scheme. No color scheme is repeated in the 100 covers. And anytime you saw somebody's feet, they were always wearing Converse high top all-star Chuck Taylors, just because that's what we all wear. And things never change. They never change.
Yes. See, Jeff, it's a thing. It's a real thing.
Okay.
So, quick, just
a
real quick.
Hold on. I heard a different version of that.
Okay.
Were you doing it to tick off your mom?
Yes, well, that too. Yes, yeah. Well, so again, I'm wearing cons all the time, and again, we didn't. I wasn't poor, and I don't want to put on a story that I was poor, but you only got, you got a pair of sneakers when school started, and they better last you all the way through until the spring, and maybe you get another pair. So you wear your sneakers every day, and they start to smell. And my mother used to at some point, she used to go. She finally loses her shit and goes, someday you're going to have to get a real job. And when you do, you're going to have to wear shoes, and you can get rid of these stinking sneakers. And I was like, yeah, okay. Roll your eyes like a kid does. And yes, right. Sure, okay. And when the Goosebumps came along and I started to do this, I would always either the book publisher would send me books, or I'd go to the bookstore and I'd buy books, and I would always give them to my mom. So she had a set, and, try to make her proud of, her son. And she would always see it. And again, my mom just, if they were shit, she would have said they were wonderful. And she was like, oh, this is great. Another Goosebumps cover. And then when she would see the sneakers on there, then she'd roll her eyes and she'd go, oh, and there's those stinking sneakers. So, so the whole deal was, the only reason why I put them on the covers is I needed to punish my mom.
That's awesome. Nice. That's awesome. But like I was saying,
yeah, go ahead.
Okay,
I was gonna ask a new question. So go ahead if you had
to say. Well, like I said, when he talked about the Converse, it's a real thing. So Jeff and I have a comic book series. So the very first comic we did, this is a very quick story. Very first comic we did, we wrote it, created it in the whole 9 yards. We reached out to an artist. He sent us some sketches. And one of the first pages we got, I noticed he had me kind of, because we're the main characters.
Oh, okay.
He had me squatting down, and I looked at it. And I said, what the does he have on my feet? No. And I called a meeting. I literally called a meeting, and I'm like, if you're going to draw us in perspective, you need to put Chuck Taylors on my feet, period. My tattoos have to be where they're supposed to be, and my Chuck Taylors. So he says to Jeff, all right, what am I going to put on your feet? He goes, I don't give a shit. Put pink bunny slippers. Well, guess what? Somebody wears pink bunny slippers through the whole series now. But the Chuck Taylors, it's a thing. You're either in or you're out, dude. It's either in or out.
Yeah, okay.
There's no. All right, go ahead. Ask me a question.
I guess I must be out. No, I wanted to ask you if do you have like a favorite author or something that you would just love to do a book cover for?
Good question.
So I've been lucky to do a bunch of them. A lot of authors that I think are cool. My stuff wouldn't really apply, but the one story that I do have is when I was in art school. This is this is 1980. Stephen King there was nobody bigger. There was you almost didn't know another author's name. And when we were all in art school, it was two things. I want to do a Stephen King cover, and I want to paint like Frank Frazetta. Those were the two things that drove all of us into art school. And later on in my career, they were repackaging 3 of Stephen King's novels into one hardback book cover. The Shining, Pet Sematary, and I can't remember what the third one was, but they wanted to feature The Shining on the cover. And so again, the book The Shining, the movie The Shining, that was what a sweet spot. And it was a Stephen King cover, and they were asking me to do the artwork. So I was totally thrilled. And so I came up with this piece of art, and it's the Jack Nicholson character standing out in front of the mansion. It's snowing like mad, and he's got his hands out in front of him, and there's just blood on his hands. And when I drew the pencil drawing, and I went to send it over to the client, you couldn't tell that there was blood on their hands. So I took the pencil sketch, and then I took out some paint, and I just painted the red blood in the hands, and sent it over. Now we've reached the digital world time. These are not traditional things, right. So I can send color images to the client, and they see it and they're like, "Oh yeah, this is cool. This is what we want you to do." So I'm going, okay, so when I do this, do you want me to, do the Goosebumps style colors? Do you want the rich? And they're like, no. Do exactly what you did here. We want the black and white version of what you did, although I know it's a pencil here, but we want black and white, and the only color that's going to be on this is going to be his hands. It's going to be dripping blood. And that was, I love doing black and white artwork. It came out very cool. So when I put any human figure in any of my books, I always take a photo reference, because if I just draw the character from memory, they're going to be a little cartoony. That's just my style. But if I get some good photo reference, I can get my people looking spot on realistic in the final art. So usually I get a friend, I'll get, if it's a woman, I'll get a girlfriend, something just, but in this one, it was going to be me. So I took a picture of me. So not only did I get to do the artwork for the Stephen King cover, I'm actually on the Stephen King cover. So I covered all the bases with that. And, it was a piece that came out really cool.
Wow. I was surprised Leo wasn't Googling that.
I was. I couldn't.
It's a hard find. It's a hard find.
I think I've seen that picture somewhere.
Yeah, because I remember the compilation. I almost want to say, no, I was going to say maybe it was Carrie that was in that, but no. But I do remember The Shining and Pet Sematary.
Carrie was in it. That was the third book in the series.
I think it was Carrie, wasn't it? Yeah. Because I remember. I think I owned it at one point.
So tell us a little bit about Monsters, Madness, and Magic.
What about it? I don't know anything about it.
It says it's a podcast. It was on your Wikipedia.
Oh, okay. I've done a lot of podcasts, so I don't know. Did something happen on it?
I don't know. That's why I asked, because it
sorry,
specifically referenced that.
Whoever, I'm sure the guy whose podcast it is really pissed right now. But,
Give him 2 weeks.
He's got his one chance for glory, and I'm going, yeah, sorry, man. I don't remember. Oh, yeah, there's the piece.
Oh, it was,
yeah.
Oh, so it was Salem's Lot.
Yeah, Salem's Lot. That's it.
Not Pet Cemetery. Yep. Leo found it. See, just give him a minute.
He's the man. He's the man.
That's why he's here.
Yeah. So I have to assume that was a podcast that you were on that was really memorable.
Yeah, it happens where, I love doing these, and I do quite a few, and I'll just like you pronounce my name correctly at the beginning of this thing, I'll do the same for you on the next podcast. I don't know. The podcast was something about smoking something.
So Tim, I hear you got an IMDb credit for being on Still Toking With. You're gonna be like, what the hell was that? What are you talking about?
What the fuck are you talking about?
Wait a minute, is that up in my attic? What? Oh crap. So wow. I like Jeremy's comment that you just posted up on the screen there. Yeah. Now, are you seeing the comments as well, Tim?
Yeah.
So, Jeremy is part of our network. Leo runs the network. He's got almost 40 plus shows on the network.
Wow.
And Jeremy is also part of our road crew. So when we go to conventions, it's usually Jeff, myself, Leo, and Jeremy. So, but unfortunately, Leo didn't make the trip to Virginia. Got stuck here because of work, and he played the voice of Dog through the PA system.
Yep.
But yeah, so Jeremy's kids are impressed that we have Tim on tonight.
And that's cool. That's the other thing is, so the generation that grew up on Goosebumps is now old enough to have kids of their own, and they're turning them on to the books that they read. And so there's another generation of Goosebumps kids coming up along the way. And it's awesome. And then a few years back when they did the Jack Black movies, that got us back, into people's memories and put a nice solid new spin on it, where when they first announced it was going to be Jack Black, I was like, I don't know. I love Jack Black, but he ain't, I know RL. He's, they're not even close.
Right.
And, but, that they threaded the needle and they got something that worked really well.
Right. Awesome.
Cool. So, if you can even talk about it, do you have any current projects or future projects in the works?
There's a, RL and I just worked again recently for Boom Comics. There's a new series coming out called The Stuff of Nightmares. This is R.L. Stein wrote it, and it's a graphic novel. So there's another set of artists who are doing the graphic art, and it's for the grown-up Goosebumps fans. This is not for kids. This is for the 18 and over, and it's way gorier than the usual stuff, and the stories are dark and they're cool. And I got a chance to do one of the variant covers for the first edition, and that should be out in the next couple of weeks. Cool. That's the hottest, that's the hottest thing off the press I got going.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, the only other thing I have, and this is I can't name drop because I signed shit. I was, a famous rap artist had reached out and wanted me to help design some graphics for their clothing line, and we tried, and sometimes things match up well and sometimes they don't. But but I ended up with a couple of cool ideas that I'm gonna continue and run with, and I'll probably do the full color art on that, and I'll make them available at my shows. So nothing's wasted.
Awesome.
As it shouldn't be.
That's awesome. So
cool.
Yeah.
Like he said earlier, folks, he's going to be at the New York Comic-Con in a few weeks.
Yeah, that's I think the 6th is the Wednesday in the first Wednesday or second Wednesday in October. What's nice is R.L. Stine lives in Manhattan, and he's going to be at the convention, and him and I are going to do a panel together on Saturday.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah, they're going to speak with him because, again, it's the 30th anniversary for the first part of it. And then the second part of it, I'm going to bring in some artwork, and him and I are going to, riff on the artwork and make fun of stuff. And we've done it in the past, and it's a lot of fun. So, it's not only just come to the con and get something signed. You can see us both joke around.
So I'm going to say it again. Get off your ass and head out to the New York Comic-Con and check out Tim and RL. I mean, come on. Seriously.
He's the man.
Or sit home and don't, and, blame
That's always another option.
And blame your damn self because you didn't go.
Right. And you can always find out more about this special guest here tonight in the show notes up above or down below.
That is correct. Up above or down below.
Depending on
where they're watching or listening to us. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I was just curious. I mean, I wasn't sure if you were going to drop that again. So all his information's in there, including his website. So if you can't make it down to the New York Comic-Con, go to his website. Now you have no excuse. Now you have no excuse. You can sit home and still get yourself something.
Now it's funny.
Just saying.
It's I've seen over the years, because I'm about the same age as you. I don't want to say anything like that about but I grew up in your generation. How's that?
Yeah. I'm older than you. I'm just looking at. I don't know you. I'm just looking at you. I'm older than you. We don't need to play this
much. So anyway, I've seen a lot of the Goosebumps artwork over the years. I just have. I mean, you can't help but see it. But I've never read a book.
Yeah.
I've never read a Goosebumps book.
Well, you wouldn't have because
you were past the you were not the genre, you were not the age. And if you were reading the book, you probably had a reading disability. And
but this new one you were talking about,
I'm intrigued with that as well.
I'm interested in that because I love reading horror.
And it's cool. It's a graphic novel, and RL doesn't usually write to that group. And again, I got to see some of the early stuff, and I'm going, wow, we're going there. All right, which is fun for me because stuff that I would. Back in the Goosebumps days, the early Goosebumps days, there were unwritten rules and, things you could show, things that you couldn't show. And this one was like, all right, let's go. This will be very cool. So, I hope the series gets off the ground, and they know that I'm always waiting in the wings. Bring the lefty out of the bullpen and let's give it a go.
So based on how you just described that whole thing, I'm expecting skin.
Yeah.
Okay.
No. No, gore as good and gory as you can get. Yeah.
Nice. Okay. Nice. Yeah. See, I'm looking forward to that because I know Jeff's about 4 years younger than you, but I'm 9 years younger than Jeff. So I was just on the other side.
It's on the other side.
I was in my teen years, and Goosebumps. When I was thinking Goosebumps, it wasn't the books.
Yeah,
I was giving people Goosebumps, but
Well, so going back to the books, though. So they weren't written for us.
Right.
So the ability of everybody to self-publish now has opened up the market incredibly. So if you're if you want to write the great novel, you can. and you can get it printed and published and get a nice looking book, and you can hand it out to your friends and hawk it out of the trunk of your car. And in the old days, you had to use the publishing company.
Right.
So what would happen is, by the time any book got to me, it had been through a lot of vetting, and everything I read was pretty damn good. Maybe it wasn't my cup of tea,
Right.
but they were well written, well structured books. Well, that screening process no longer exists, and there are things coming across my desk where you're just going, wow, okay. And I got a few of those in a row, and I'm still you still read it and you still do the best you can. And I went back and I read, I was like, I forget what inspired me, but I went back and I read one of the Goosebumps books, and I was like, yeah, what was it that made these things click? And as soon as you start to read it and you go, oh, the pacing of it is brilliant. Short little chapters. So if you're a beginning reader, and it was one of those things where the books were originally written for girls, but boys started to pick them up because they had cool covers on them, and then they started to read them, and so the chapters. So the book's about 120 pages long. The chapters were never longer than 20 pages, so you could start. You could get through a chapter, and then at the end of every chapter, RL would put a hook. It would either be he'd leave you hanging and make you go, oh, I'm going to read the next 20 pages. And then he'd take you through another arc and you would continue to read it. And so it perpetually kept the kid hooked and reading and encouraged to read the next chapter. And being that they're only 100 pages long, there was kids finishing them off by the time their mom bought it at the bookstore. They getting out of the car and 3/4 of the book is gone, and they can't wait till next month. So when I went back and read it again, I'm going, yeah, this is brilliant. The pacing is brilliant. The storytelling is cool, and always at the end, he always did something. There was a surprise ending, a twist, or something, and they still hold up. They're kind of timeless.
Oh.
Right.
Now, was there ever any illustration or artwork within the book?
No. So we wrote they put out an autobiography by R.L. Stine called "It Came from Ohio," and it did pretty well as like a side book. So we asked if we could do a book. Call it Came from New Jersey, and I would just, talk about being the Goosebumps illustrator. But because we wanted to we wanted to put art in there. If you look at a Goosebumps book, I don't have any right here, but the paper in there is as low quality that you can get in a paperback. It's what every paperback was made out of.
Right.
And you couldn't print anything other than text on there without it just bleeding off the page. So because we wanted to put art in there, in order to get the high quality paper in there, we had to cut the number of pages that we could produce. So usually a Goosebumps book's 100 pages. Mine's now down to 50. And but we printed photographs and art on every page. So that's as close as we could get to artwork being done on the inside of the Goosebumps books.
Wow.
That I had anything to do with.
You right over there, Leo?
Yeah, just allergies.
Oh, you got another show? You got another show tonight?
I do.
Wow, look at you go. So with that being said, let's do like another 4 or 5 minutes, and then we'll let the show close out and let everybody go eat dinner.
I already ate.
Oh, well, that was a hint.
ate before the show.
So basically what I'm telling you is there any last questions, gentlemen?
I've pretty much hit all mine. I mean,
Ed stole some of mine.
Oh, did I?
Oh yeah, it's all good.
You got to be quicker than that.
Well, a couple of my first ones were like, are you still doing original art? But he touched on that. I didn't have to ask the question. I was like, show notes are in the fucking
right. Are you still painting at all? at this point?
It's rare. The setup is always there. I got a spot in the back of my in my shop, and the easel kind of comes out of the ceiling. Most of the time, it's a regular workbench where you fix the lawnmower. But I have a setup that's always ready to go, but I haven't. It's been a little while. So no, it's more rare than I would like it to be. We'll get back.
Because I would think that would be therapeutic.
So it is, because it's different, and the pieces I've been doing lately, or the ones that I do now, are way bigger, so that you're standing up, you walk up, you do it, you got to step back to see it. Last piece I did was 2 feet by 7 feet. And I've been working in black and white, so again, a total switch on what I would normally do for the Goosebumps stuff. It's fun, but to feed my head whenever I sit here a lot, and I put in a lot of hours sitting at the desk, and when I don't have to sit at the desk, I don't want to go do a painting. I'm out in the yard.
Right. Okay.
Anything where I'm standing up and moving around and just doing something out and getting a little sunshine on me. That's the stuff that I do in my free time. Go down the street to the beer garden and drink a few beers at the picnic table.
Right. So I got one final question.
Cool.
Have you ever worked with charcoals?
I have. I did in school. I went to a traditional art school where they taught us every medium, and I liked it. I didn't have a knack for it because my hands aren't real steady, and I like to put my hands on my artwork when I'm doing my work. That's why acrylics were the greatest thing in the world, because
that's the problem with charcoal.
Yeah, charcoal. Yeah, I would be smearing them to death. There's an artist named Jeff Etrevera. Tough one to spell. We call him Jeff Etch, and if you look up Jeff Etch, ECH, I went to art school with Jeff Etch, and he does the most incredible charcoal work you've ever seen. It's charcoal pencil. At first you're going, these are photographs. And then you get closer and you're like, holy shit, guy's amazing. So I purposely stay away from it now because he's so damn good at it. It makes me want to fold up the tackle box and just put all that stuff away and do something else.
Excellent, excellent. So Leo. Hi.
Yes, sir. Hi.
Were you looking for the squirrels?
No. I was looking for
the button.
Jeff Etch.
Oh, there he
is. He was looking for Jeff Etch. I knew what he was doing. Wow.
Yeah, the guy's incredible, and he's prolific as any. Like the number of pieces he cranks out is mind bending.
Yeah, that is some amazing stuff.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well,
I can't draw a stick figure cat.
No. I'll stick to writing.
Yeah.
We'll hire the
shit too. Like we all have our niche. I can't. There's plenty. There's very few masters of all things. Putting 3 sentences. I have to write a small thing. They're doing a biography on R.L. Stine over in Italy, and the guy asked me just to write something small, and it's fucking painful. It's brutal, and it's awful. I read it and I just go, all I can hear is every time I write something, I'm going, oh, you're such an ass. You sound like such an ass. So,
what the fuck you say that for?
What'd you say that for? You sound like a moron. So,
oh crap, Leo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
On that note, I want to thank everybody for watching this fine evening. If you check the show notes up above or down below, you'll find everything about tonight's guest. For me, just Google Leo Pond. You find a bunch of stuff. Could be true, could be not. I'm not going to say which is which, but I run the Dorkening Podcast Network. We got a ton of awesome people doing a ton of awesome stuff. Head on over to thedorkening.com, which you can find all the latest episodes there. Tim, where do you like people interacting with you on social media?
Best place is just stay on Instagram. That's where the stuff is the most up to date. Everything as things pop up and as artwork is new, that's the first place it goes. So T Jacobus on Instagram.
Have you looked into a alternative for Instagram? I know like some artists are going to, I think it's Vue, VUE.
All right, I'll look into it.
Okay, there we go.
There you go. I got some info.
Yeah. Jeffrey.
What? Go to stilltoken.com. You'll find out everything you need to know about us or Token with the Dead on our Facebook page. The website's probably the easiest. We got more information there, and it's actually easy to find because it can be hard to find stuff on Facebook. You got to like dig through folders and all this stuff. You can't like organize stuff on Facebook. You know what I mean? Not like a website. Page. So just go to stilltoken.com. You'll find out everything you need to know except about me.
I still want to know where that button went. Where the light switch went.
Oh, the light switch? I told you, dude. It's one of those new ones. It was like flush to the wall. You couldn't see it.
Oh, okay. I'm still going to ask, though.
I know you are every time. So, like Jeff said, stilltoking.com is the best place to find out about what we do. All the amazing stuff that Tim has done is in the show notes up above or down below. We want to thank Tim for hanging out with us tonight. Ask him just to hang tight while Leo closes out the show. But to all our veterans and first responders, we want to thank you for doing what you do so people like us can do what we do. Stay safe. We'll see you next week. We're out of here.
Bye.